So in the last lecture, the first thing that we looked into was what is an optical communication, that is the history of the optical communication. We looked into how it evolved from a simple communication which could transmit a limited information using the visible light to a present generation where it is able to fulfill all the demand needs of the all our demand needs. So and now it finds its application everywhere. So I showed you a video about you talk about anything, and the and you will find that uh, optical communication is present there. So the few of the examples that you can see in the picture are the your submarine, your metro networks. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So everywhere we could see that optical communication, and if you talk about the backend, it's only the optical communication that's a efficient backend that is helping you to in say whether it's wireless communication or any other communication. Now coming to the advantages of optical communication. So we could see the advantages of optical communication is the long distance communication. There are low losses, it gives you a high bandwidth, it has a low cost, lightweight, and the information is highly secure, and it's a reliable system. So what is the frequency range that we are using for optical communication? As I told you in the last class, it is a near infrared range that we use for the optical communication, which gives you a bandwidth in terahertz. That is actually a large bandwidth that we are able to get. And I gave you an example of when I say 100 gigahertz is the frequency, we are able to download 100 movies in a second. So that is what is a volume of data that can be handled with an optical communication. Because of the use of higher frequencies, we are able to because of the use of the higher frequencies, we are able to actually get a larger bandwidth. Okay. So the wavelength is in nanometers. Then I have also talked about the development with an optical telegraph, coming to the making of the fibers with a very low attenuation, and in 1960 coming out with a concept that low attenuation fibers can be used for the signal transmission. And then finally it was in 1966 that the fibers were made with a very low attenuation that could help us to make and commercialize the use optical communication for commercial purposes. Then I have even showed you the diagram for this optical communication link. So optical communication, the transmitter has a light source which is an LED or a laser, and the receiver yeah, and the receiver, at the receiver we have for the first device is a at the optical receiver is a detector, which here it's a light which is getting sorry, electrical information which is getting converted into an optical information, and it is traveling through your fiber. And at the receiver, this optical information gets converted back into an electrical information, and then the information is received. So it also shows, this diagram shows also shows you the various components. The splice is nothing but a joint. The connector, it's a permanent joint, you can say that. It's like a providing a flexibility that you can remove and again make the joint. The splitters is if you want to transmit the information to more than one destination, so this will help us to split the information and make it reach the other destination. Then this all I have covered. Yeah, this I'll cover it later. Yeah. Yeah, I covered this diagram also telling you that if I look at the attenuation in an optical communication, it is these points of minimum attenuation, that decide what will be the frequency that we will be using. And as you can see, initially in 1970s, it was around 890 nanometers, which was used for optical communication. Here the wavelength is in micrometers. Then it came to 1330 in 1980s. You can say that it was around 1330 nanometers, which was used for optical communication because of its low attenuation. And then presently we are using 1550 nanometers. It's not that these two optical windows are not existing. We still use these wavelengths in your local area network, that's in your lab. You can say that this is the wavelength that is being used. And 1550 gives you a very low attenuation, and therefore it makes the system more efficient and gives you a larger bandwidth. Then we started with, yeah, then we started with the ray theory. The second part of, means after the break, I started with the ray theory. I explained you the bending of the ray, that is when the ray is incident from a denser medium to the rarer medium, it bends away from the normal. And if this angle of incident is increased, you come to a critical point, that is an angle where angle of incidence, critical angle, the angle of refraction is 90-degree. And beyond that, if you, is my voice audible? Yes, is my voice audible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah. So what happens is, if as the angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle, your ray experiences a total internal reflection. That is, there's no refraction or no part of the ray is going into the rarer medium, but it bends back. So using the Snell's law, we derive that Snell's law says that n1 sine theta 1 is equal to n2 sine theta 2. N1 is the refractive index of the medium 1 and N2 is the refractive index of the medium 2. So N1 sine theta C, if I take this second case, it is N1 sine theta C in this case, particular case, is equal to N2 sine theta 2, where theta 2 in a critical condition, when theta 1 becomes critical angle, theta 2 becomes 90. So substituting that condition, your sine theta C, and since we are taking this particular case, and your theta 2 is 90, so sine of theta 2 becomes 1, and sine of theta c comes out to be n2 by n1. Right, this much was what we covered in the last lecture. Any doubts in this, what all we covered in the last lecture?
No, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So now continuing with this, now comes as another concept when we are transmitting an information, is your numerical aperture. Now before that, the very interesting thing that is shown here is, now this, when it is extended to your fiber is, this is your core and this is your cladding. Okay, so when the ray is incident here at this point, it is an air and the core interface. What is happening is the ray is bending, and after that, if it satisfy your critical condition, what happens is the ray experiences a total internal reflection at the core and the cladding interface. This is the core, this is cladding. Yeah, this is core and this is cladding. Okay, so at this interface the your ray experiences a total internal reflection, and this is how at every point where there is an interface of core and cladding there is a total internal reflection, and this is how you're using the total internal reflection concept. The ray moves from the enters the fiber and it is able to travel to the destination using the total internal reflection. So these rays which you see as traveling, the straight rays which are traveling crossing your axis at every point, these are called as meridional rays, and it passes through the axis of the core. Okay, so every point of core cladding, that is an interface point, you experience a total internal reflection. And definitely always the core has a higher refractive index and the cladding has a lower refractive index, and we have to see that any ray which satisfies the critical condition will only be experiencing total internal reflection, and any ray which is not able to give you a total, say suppose I just change the color, say there is a ray which is not satisfying the total internal critical angle condition, what will happen is it may get bent here with a certain angle, it will not experience total but it may get refracted into the cladding, and at this point of air and the cladding interface, maybe it may travel to a certain distance, but after that it gets lost as a radiative mode. These rays which are traveling through your fibers are called the modes. Okay, so what is happening is as the ray is not satisfying your total internal reflection, or that is being getting confined into the core, it moves into the cladding and then get lost. So these are called as lossy modes or the leaky modes, and they are actually, this is resulting into the attenuation of your signal, because there is a these particular energy, there is an energy associated, right? When you are transmitting an electromagnetic wave, there is an energy associated with the each mode that is traveling, and when that mode gets lost, there is a loss of energy. So anything that comes at a certain angle is only able to contribute and reach your destination. Okay, is that clear? Okay, is the point clear? Now, don't you think we need to understand which all rays or define that particular parameter for our fiber, which will tell that yes, this ray coming, whether it will be reaching my destination or whether it will be lost in between. Yes or no? Do you agree to this point? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, the terminology that helps us to understand which particular ray will be reaching the destination and which will be getting lost is defined by the acceptance cone. So you can see in this figure that any ray that comes inside this acceptance cones, it's a solid acceptance cone, yeah, in this figure you can see that it's a solid cone, that is any ray inside this cone, this is what you can say is a critical condition. यहाँ पे actually देखेंगे तो क्या होगा, critical पे it should go parallel to your core cladding interface and simply travel. So this, beyond this, what is happening is, as I told you previously, this is a ray which is not able to satisfy your condition and may get lost out of or move out of the fiber, resulting in the loss of information and the loss of power. Okay, now so now we have to calculate this value, right? This is giving us a measure of what we will be able to, how much basically we'll be able to couple. So this is also telling you about, if I have a light source which is giving me the output which is coming, say like this. So how much portion of this will get coupled into the fiber, or how much that output given by the source will be accepted by the fiber. So we now define a term, numerical aperture. We define the term acceptance angle and the numerical aperture. First, I'll do the numerical aperture and then come to the acceptance cone calculation. So what is this numerical aperture? It is nothing but it is talking about the light gathering capacity of an optical fiber. So that's about the ability of a fiber to actually capture the amount of light given by the source and um, put it inside the fiber. So how do we calculate it? It's what do you want? Ideally, what should be a numerical aperture, high or low for any fiber? All of you can reply to this in the chat. What is an ideal value that you expect for a numerical aperture? Answer could be whether it should be high or low. High means it's the higher the ability of the yeah, I can see some answers. It should be low. Others, what do you say? Kirti says high, Priyanka says low. Can you unmute Priyanka and say why it should be low? Crucial also says high. Priyanka, can you tell me why do you think it should be low? Yes, Priyanka? Yeah, okay. So let me again go back to the definition. I agree with you, Kirti and Crucial. So numerical aperture is the ability to basically couple, right? The right word is the ability of a fiber to couple the light from the source into the fiber. So what do you want? Do you want the losses to occur at the point of coupling? No, you want whatever is my output of the source should go into the fiber, and how much it will go is defined by the numerical aperture. So larger is your numerical aperture, the larger is its ability to couple the light from the source into the fiber. Is the point clear, Priyanka? So what is happening is, if my numerical, if I just have to draw the numerical aperture and show you, this is say a numerical aperture cone or an acceptance cone for a low numerical aperture, and this is for a large, right? This is a low Na and this is a high Na, as means, or basically you can say I'm making a comparison. So in the comparison, this is a higher numerical aperture. So you can see. So यहाँ पे अगर आपका light source is giving you the output of say this much range, only this much part will be accepted. In this case, if this is my wave front that is coming from the light source, such a large amount of it will be, and this is what you want. You want a larger amount of signal to be coupled, means it means larger power will be coupled, and there will be no loss at the point of, there will be no loss at the point of inserting the information only, right? You are actually, this is talking about only a small portion of light getting inserted, and this is talking about large amount of, comparatively I would say, comparatively a larger amount of light getting coupled, and therefore the more power is getting coupled, and therefore you prefer, ideally you prefer a high numerical um, aperture. Ideally you want it, but we will see that whether this ideal expectation is what we want, or what do we compromise, or do we have what value is being selected, or what is it dependent upon. So we'll try to understand that. So okay, now let's again use the Snell's law to derive our numerical aperture. So first, in this we have two interfaces. One is this interface at the air and the core, and the second interface that you see is at the core and the cladding. So let us write the equation. Um, so at this point, at this junction, what will be your Snell's law? It is N0 sine of theta 1 is equal to, this is say N1 is my refractive index and the angle of refraction is theta 2. Okay. So what I'll do is, yes, it is written here is sine of theta, N0 sine of theta 1 is equivalent to N1 sine of theta 2, which also is written as, right? What has been done is, I should write the first part which is missing here is N0 sine of theta 1 N0 sine of theta 1 is equivalent to N1 sine of right, N0 sine of theta 2. Now how can I write this theta 2? What do you see this triangle ABC? ABC is a right angle triangle. So ACB is a right angle triangle, correct? So what will be the value of theta 2 in terms of phi? Can you tell me what will be the value of theta 2 in terms of phi? Correct. Very good. 90 minus 5, Mohit. Correct. So theta 2 is equal to 90 minus 5. So if I substitute theta 2 as 90 minus 5, the equation becomes N0 sine of theta 1 N0 theta 1 is equivalent to N1 is equal to N1 sine of theta 2 की जगह मैं लिखूंगी sine of 90 minus 5. What is sine of 90 minus 5? Can anyone tell me? What is sine of 90 minus 5? Yeah, I can see. It is correct. It's cos of 5. Perfect. So the equation now becomes N0 sine of theta 1 is equal to N1 cos of 5. Correct. Now can I write cos of 5? How can I write cos of 5? Can I write cos of 5 as square root of cos of 5 can be written as using your trigonometric relations, cos of phi is square root of 1 minus sine square of phi, 1 minus sine square theta, right? Cos of cos theta, yeah, cos square theta is 1 minus sine square theta, या cos theta I can write it as square root of 1 minus sine square theta. तो हमने theta की जगह यहाँ phi use किया. Is it okay? Yeah, can you see? Now this equation has come. We have come to this equation, that is N0 sine of theta 1 is equal to N1 sine square theta to power of 1 by 2. So cos phi is replaced by your 1 minus sine square. Is it clear? Yes, everyone? Yes or no? ये equation कैसे बना है? Yeah, okay. Now what are we supposed to do? Now we know that when will this total internal reflection occur? We say that now in this case, I take an assumption that this is a critical case. Critical case means this is a condition where your angle at the angle formed at your interface of the core and cladding is your critical angle, right? I am taking a case. इसके बाद जो भी angle आएगा वो critical angle नहीं form करेगा, right? So I am taking a boundary condition. You can say that that's the last ray that when it is entering into the fiber at a particular angle theta 1, it will form a critical angle. तो ये अगर हमारा critical angle होगा तो you know that this ray will be 90 and it will be, and that's a special case when it will be 90 and still traveling through your fiber, right? So I can take that phi is, if I replace phi by theta c, right? Phi by theta c हमने replace किया. What is my theta c? Theta c क्या है हमारा? थीटा सी हमने निकाला है ना, साइन थीटा सी अभी पहले निकाला था, इट इज n2 by n1, right? Yes. So what I'll do is, again I'll substitute in this equation sine square phi की जगह I can write it as sine square theta c, where theta c, sine of theta c, you know that is n2 by n1, which we have already derived at the beginning, right? So, and this angle theta 1, as I said, is a boundary condition. So it defines the maximum value or is equivalent to the maximum acceptance angle. That is what will allow the ray to be accepted into the fiber and reach the destination. So this condition, this theta 1 is equal to theta A. Okay, this is equal to theta A, and at this particular point what we will do is just write our equation. So 1 minus n2 by n1 the whole square to power of 1 by 2. So just substituting this value, try it and tell me, are you getting this equation? Yes, please solve it and tell me, are you getting this equation? So again, we will have n0 sine of theta A, that's a boundary condition, is equal to n1. Substituting the value of sine theta c, 1 minus sine of theta c right? This is your equation. Now I'm substituting theta c by, yeah, correct. Very good. You're getting the perfect answer, Mohit. So it is n0 sine of theta A is equal to n1 1 minus n1 square by n2 square to power of 1 by 2. Okay, so just making, sorry, I'm so sorry, it's n2 by n1. Yeah, substituting it correctly, this n1 square in the denominator, taking it as a common, what do you find is n1 square comes here, and out of the square root it comes out to be n1, which gets cancelled, and you get the answer, correct. So you get the answer as n0 sine of theta A. Now n0, what was it? It was air. The air has a refractive index of 1. So I can simply write my sine theta A for a particular case when your ray is entering from air into the fiber, it is n1 square minus n2 square. This sine theta A is nothing but the numerical aperture. It's a measure that helps us to define the numerical aperture or give us the value or the capacity of the fiber to couple the light from the source into the fiber. Normally, you will also come across questions as we go further. What happens is we will find that n1 and n2 values are kept as near as possible. So if I say my core is 1.45, the cladding would be 1.44. It's hardly a 1 or a 2% difference between it. There is a reason for it. Although I started with what should be ideally the value of numerical aperture and told you that higher is the value, it is better because it helps you to couple more light into the fiber. But what do we find is practically we keep it as near. There is a reason for it is when you are changing the doping, then only you are able to change the refractive index. And as your N1 and N2 are far apart, what is happening is we are also getting lot of scattering. The losses are increasing, and therefore you need to keep your core and cladding as near as possible. There is another reason for keeping N1 and N2 and near. We will prove it later. Is your dispersion losses are higher. That is because dispersion is the increase, as I told you in the lecture 1. If your input pulse is thin pulse that you are putting after traveling through your medium, what happens is there is an attenuation and the broadening of the pulse. So this broadening, what it will do is it will limit your bandwidth. So that is the reason to keep this dispersion to minimum. You keep your core and cladding to as near as possible. So ideally you want it high, and practically it has to be kept as near. So there has to be a compromise between this value of numerical aperture or the values of N1 and N2 that you select for your fiber to make it. Correct. That is what I am trying to explain, Kirti, that when yeah, you got it now. So when I keep N1 and N2 as near as possible, definitely your numerical aperture is low, but we have to keep it less to make your basically to make your dispersion low. So we have a system, I would tell you that we have a system of, say, coupling the source. So this is a source. Definitely it is giving you the output, light output is like this, and my numerical aperture is this. So I have to couple the light into it. So there is a use of lenses, right? There is a use of lenses which help us to converge it into the numerical. So there is always, wherever there is a problem, we engineers are there to solve it, right? So we wanted this, I would have covered in, I'll definitely cover in more detail when we come to the component. Just to clarify your doubt, I'm telling you that we want numerical aperture to be high, but higher is the numerical aperture, the larger is your dispersion. To avoid that, we need to keep the lower numerical aperture. But to make it still effective with the lower numerical aperture, your coupling has to be done with the help of micro lenses. Although this looks so big, the lenses, they are called as micro lenses, being used to couple the light effectively into the numerical aperture so that it satisfies your critical condition and the signal is able to travel to the destination without getting lost as a leaky or a radiative mode. Is it clear? Yes, everyone, is the point clear, or do you have any doubt? I said two contradictory statements. Numerical aperture ideally should be large, practically it is low, but we have a mechanism to overcome it. Yes, large to couple more light, but large means large dispersion. So we need to keep it as small. So practically when we'll be doing the numericals, you will see the values are very near 1.45, 1.5, like that. They are very near. just to have a system where you have a minimum dispersion and you have a large bandwidth. Okay. So I'll just come back here. So numerical aperture I explained. So this is an acceptance cone. As I told you, this is an acceptance cone, which the value is equal to numerical aperture, and this is what is a ray which will travel to the destination. This is lost by radiation or refraction. So just to visualize how it looks, it's a solid acceptance angle, which is anything inside, any ray inside it will travel through your fiber and reach the destination. And as you see, any ray which is coming beyond this acceptance angle, these green patterns, they get refracted or lost as leaky modes. Yeah, let's do one numerical. I just want to show you the solution. Right. So let's do this numerical, everyone. Quickly take out your pen, paper. So you are given that the silicon optical fiber with a core diameter large enough to be considered by the ray theory analysis. So I just want to tell you that when you use this term ray theory analysis, this is just because when we assume that the dimensions of the fiber are such that we can apply the ray theory. As the dimension becomes smaller, you cannot actually, we could assume the triangles and take out the derivations, although the things practically may not be like this, but still the results match with what we are getting. So that is what he wants to say, is that the dimension reduces, we cannot actually visualize or derive our expression using the ray theory. So dimensions are such that it's basically greater than 8 to 10 nanometers, then we can assume that the ray theory can be applied. Okay, so that is the meaning of this line. Has a core refractive index of 1.5 and a cladding refractive index of 1.47. So here also you can see the difference, 1.47 and 1.5. It's hardly 0.03. That's the difference between the core and the cladding. Determine the critical angle. What is the critical angle? Can you tell me what was your critical angle? Theta C का formula बताएगा कोई मुझे? I think it's better to take a text box. What is theta C? Yeah, I can see the answer in the chat box. It is Kirti, it's not n2 by n1, it is sine inverse. Sine of theta c was n2 by n1, so it is sine inverse n2 by n1. Correct? Yeah. So I request all of you to just, you are given the values, quickly tell me the value of sine theta c. A simple numerical, ये आपके objective type में आ सकता है. You can even be asked to, माने एक analysis भी आ सकता है. You may be given 2 cases. अभी मैं इसी में ही आपको करवाती हूँ. Yeah, 78.5 degrees. 8.52. Yeah. Everyone, are you getting this value? Yes or no? Yes. Others? There are only 2 people in my class. Quickly solve it and tell me, are you getting this or not? Yeah, good. Now, Solve it again. The second case, I would say, taking the cladding to be air. We have to answer one question, why we cannot use air as a cladding. So we'll answer this through the numerical. That is, you need to take the second case when your N2 is air, that is N2 is equal to 1. Can you tell me what will be the change in theta C when you have N2 as air? That is, cladding is no more 1.47 but 1. I'll name it as theta C1 and theta C2. Correct? It is 41.81 degrees. Everyone, I'm not going to proceed until and unless I see all yes or completed in the chat box. So quickly do and tell me, then only I'm going to proceed. Everyone solve. The critical angle reduces, right? बाकी करिए फटाफट. Priyanka? Yes, correct. Next. Priyanka done. Niketan? Yeah. Others, please answer. Huh? Are you doing or not? If you have doubt, please ask. I can see only 4 are people giving me the answer. Quickly do, then we have to go on a break after this numerical. Okay, those who have finished can do the numerical aperture for both the cases, Na1 and Na2 nikaliye, which is nothing but SQRT of N1 square minus N2 square. Correct? Using this formula, tell me Na1 and Na2. I'm waiting for all of you to do. Yes, it is 0.298 for the first case when your correct. Yes, very good, Ria. When your case 1 is when your cladding is 1.447 and numerical aperture 2 when your cladding is air. So it comes out to be 1.1. Okay, 1.11, right? So can you see the numerical aperture is higher if you have a air has a cladding, but still why do you need a cladding? We need to answer this question. And finally, find the acceptance angle. What is your acceptance angle ka formula? It is sine inverse of numerical aperture, right? So I want acceptance angle 1 and acceptance angle 2. But sine inverse of a value greater than 1, it's yeah, 17.36. It cannot be defined. You need to take the maximum value as 1, right? Numerical aperture का maximum value 1 ही हो सकता है. किसी की coupling efficiency, it's talking about your efficiency, right? You cannot, that is what I was saying, na? The maximum value of sine is 1. Okay, so we'll take it, approximate it to 1 and tell me it's 90. Correct? Right? That's a case that we are discussing. Okay, your sine value cannot be great. The maximum value of sine is 1. Okay, now let's analyze this result. Perfect, the answers are perfect. Let's analyze it. What we find is, as your cladding is replaced by air, you get your angle, critical angle is reducing. And the impact on numerical aperture that you see is with cladding 1.47, it is 0.298. That is the amount of the signal that is getting coupled into the fiber. You can say its efficiency is 29.8%, and it's 100% for this, not 100%, it has increased, I would say. So but if I talk about the acceptance angle, it has when acceptance angle is increasing, that is your acceptance cone is increasing as your cladding is replaced, air is replaced by the sorry, cladding material is replaced by the air. Now, the reason why we need cladding, so the question that can be asked to you is justify there is a need of a cladding. Why air cannot act as a cladding? Yes, initially the thing was air only was acting as a cladding, but the cladding, when we provide it, it gives it some mechanical strength. It makes the system more guided, as well as it helps to reduce the losses, right? The losses that may occur if we do not have a cladding, that is reduced. If we do not have cladding, in that case, if we have a cladding material, that's I told you with the historical developments also, I told you that the cladding will help us to have the more guided medium, and as well as it will be able to reduce the losses that occur in the absence of a cladding. That is the reason there is a need of a cladding, as well as because of reduction in the losses and making the system more efficient. Okay, is it clear? Yeah. Something I missed out. Something was there in chat. More guided in a sense that, see, if I look at just the previous, the medium में आपका क्या हो रहा है, the because of the air, yeah, because of the air, although your acceptance angle is increasing, but your system is more vulnerable to the losses because of the interaction with the atmosphere, the core interaction. So with the cladding, you are providing not only the mechanical support, but also the protection to your core from the external interferences. And therefore, that is called as a better guidance that you are able to provide in with the cladding material being used. So this is what is the answer which you already got. Okay, thank you. So we will break for 5 minutes. It's 10:56. We'll meet at 11:01. I hope that much time is sufficient. If you have, you need more time, you please let me know. Right, 5 minutes is sufficient. Okay. So quickly, we will take a break and then start with the next numerical. Now coming to one more numerical, a typical refractive index difference of an optical fiber designed for long distance transmission is 1%, right? Now what is the new term that you are coming across is a relative refractive index difference. What is a relative refractive index difference? That is denoted by delta, which is equivalent to n1 square minus n2 square. You'll say this is numerical aperture, but there is a term, one more term that you have is twice n1. Sorry, twice is not. Yeah. Okay, now I'll just take a text box to make it more clear. So this delta is equivalent to n1 square minus n2 square divided by 2n1. Okay. Now we know that this n1 and n2 are very near values, right? And what I can do, one thing is I can just write this is n1 square minus n2 square can be written as n1 plus n2 into n1 minus n2. So delta is equivalent to, I can write it as n1 plus n2 into n1 minus n2 divided by 2n1. Now since the values are very, I'm sorry, it's 2n1 square. There is a mistake in this. Okay, the delta is n1 square minus n2 square by twice n1 square. Now I can write this n1 plus n2 as twice of n1. Can I write it? Yes or no? Because they are very near values. I told you that. Yes or no? Yes. Okay. So all of you agree, since both the values are very near, I can approximate. So delta can be approximated as is approximately equal to twice n1 into n1 minus n2 divided by twice n1 square, right? So this twice n1 gets cancelled, and what is remaining is nothing but is equal to approximately equal to twice n1 gets cancelled. It's n1 minus n2 divided by n1, right? Or it can be written as, taking n1 denominator, it is 1 minus n2 by n1, which is nothing but the critical angle, right? Yes, n2 by n1 is your critical angle. So I can even write it as 1 minus sine of theta c, or this can also be written as, since you know n1 square minus n2 square, square root of n1 square minus n2 square is numerical aperture. So I can even write it in terms of delta, in terms of numerical aperture also, taking the relation of this n1 n square minus n2 square. Okay. Now, do you understand what is relative refractive index difference? It is delta. Delta is the relative refractive index difference, which is defined by n1 square minus n2 square by twice n1 square. Okay. And therefore, this is approximately the value, and we can even derive our numerical aperture. That's what you see the relation. You are asked to derive it also in your paper. So it is square root of n1 square minus n2 square, right? How can I write this in terms of delta? Can you tell me what is n1 square minus n2 square in terms of delta? Yes, tell me. इस इक्वेशन से हम निकाल सकते हैं डेल्टा. So n1 square minus n2 square is delta into twice n1 square, right? So it can be written as Na equal to, yeah, delta into twice n1, right? Correct. So it is SQRT of 2 delta into n1 square, right? So taking out n1 square out of the square root, numerical aperture is equal to n1 into twice delta, right? Is it clear? Yes, this proof is clear. This relation is very clear, because that is what you are asked here is, you are given a relative refractive index. Yeah. You are given a relative refractive index means delta. Delta is 1% means 1 by 100. Okay. Yes. N1 into square. Perfect, Mohit. So where delta is 1% means 1 by 100, numerical aperture with the core equal to 1.46 estimated. Further means core is given, delta is given. Can I find numerical aperture? Yes. For finding numerical aperture, I need n1 and the value of delta. Further, calculate critical angle. Critical angle, you know what is delta? 1 minus sine of 1 minus your critical angle. Sorry, n2 by n1. Once you get n2 by n1, sine inverse of n2 by n1 will give you the critical angle. it may be assumed that the concept hold good. That is similarly, it is talking about the dimension. So everyone quickly calculate first is yeah. Calculate your delta value, sorry, numerical aperture. You are given delta and you are given निकालिए numerical aperture. Numerical aperture is N1. Yeah, you got the answer. Yeah, numerical aperture is 0.206. Correct. Right? It is N1 SQRT of 2 times delta. Right? It is equivalent to 0.206. Right? Once you have this, can you give me the value of critical angle? For that, I need to find out N2 by N1. Okay, so delta is equal to 1 minus N2 by N1. So first give me the value of N2 by N1. What is N2 by N1? 1 minus 1%. 1 minus 1 by 100, right? 1% कैसे लिखना है? 1 नहीं लिखना है उसको, 1 by 100 लिखना है. Okay, so 1 minus 0.01 कितना होता है? 0.99. या 0.99 हो गया. अभी साइन इनवर्स ऑफ तो थीटा सी is equal to sine inverse of N2 by N1. Yeah, critical angle is 81.89. Correct. आया सबका? Please check. Everyone, please do it and tell me the answer. Yes, done. और कोई कर रहा है 4 लोगों के अलावा? Yes, good, Priya. Yeah. So you can see the answers we got are correct. 0.99 and 81.9. Now, we'll come to one more important concept before we saw was meridional rays. Now, in addition to meridional rays, there is one more way the signal can travel, taking an helical path that are called as skew rays. And one is the fibers getting, means the type of fibers that you use also change the path that the fibers that the signal takes. So let's now find out what are the different types of fibers. So the fibers are classified depending upon the refractive index profile. So the first one is a step index fiber and the graded index fiber. So graded index, step index is the core has the uniform refractive index, and the cladding, the refractive index is also uniform. So the if I draw the refractive index profile of a step index fiber, it is like this. So it is in the shape of a step. So this is refractive index and this is distance from the axis, right? Distance, this is the axis. Now in this case, if the profile is changed by a parabolic curve or some other profile, that's a graded index profile. The word graded because gradually these profile is changing with the distance from the core axis. The second classification of the fiber is depending upon the numerical apertures. So the, as I told you, the larger is the numerical aperture, definitely you will be able to couple more light, but that will result in the larger amount of losses. Okay. So low numerical aperture means low coupling efficiency. Numerical apertures normally for long distance transmission, they range between 0.1 to 0.3. Then plastic optical fibers, yes, depending upon the material that we use, the fibers can be classified as the glass fibers. The optical fibers that we use for optical communication are the made up of flexible glasses. We also have plastic optical fibers that can be used for the LAN network because there the attenuation is high. So for short distances, they can be used. So depending long distance, it's the glass fibers that are used. For short distance, it is the plastic fibers that are used. Now, in numericals, you are also asked to, you could calculate the acceptance angle, that is assuming it to be a two-dimensional image, you could calculate the acceptance angle. But actually, you know that this is a solid acceptance code. So depending upon the acceptance angle that you have, you can always calculate the projected solid angle for that particular acceptance angle because it's a part of a cone. It is pi sine square theta max. So in your questions also, the last part of the numerical is normally calculate the solid acceptance angle. So it is nothing but pi sine square theta max. The derivations we won't be doing, you need to just remember. Yeah, coming to this, what I was talking about is meridional. I have already covered. It is nothing but a ray which is traveling through the fiber using the core or crossing the core axis. Now, if these rays travel in a helical path, as you can see here, that is just changing its direction at every interface point on the core cladding interface, but not crossing the core and the cladding. As you can see from the cross section, the ray is traveling at getting bent at every intersection of the core and cladding, but not traveling through the axis. That is called as a skew rays. That is depending upon the path that they take. These rays are called skew rays. So meridional, I have already covered. Incident rays, as you can see, some of the incident rays travel to the destination, some are lost depending upon the acceptance angles, and these are the now skew rays. The acceptance angle of the this skew rays which travel are not crossing the junction have a larger acceptance angle, and the amount of light capacity is higher. Uh, they contribute to lot of losses in the fiber because of the lot of points that they have to come across, because when you are traveling through the fiber, it's only at your bends are only meridional rays, its bend is only at the core cladding interface, and therefore the losses are less as compared to the skew, although it has got a large amount of coupling capacity, that is a numerical aperture. So this is what I was talking about, is the limitation of the ray theory. So it is valid for the dimensions much larger than the wavelength. So as the dimensions of your fiber reduces, this ray theory or the derivations or the formulas that you have derived no more holds true. And therefore in every question that you could see the words being used, that ray theory can be applied to the dimensions that are being used. So it is always the dimensions of the fiber that decide whether this derivations that you have used hold true for it or not. Okay, so I have used Kaiser and Senior for this, as I have already told you. I'll be sharing these also. These are made by Kalavati madam, and since we were teaching this subject last time in sharing, so that is why I have shared this. Now, one more important thing that is missing in this, which I want to take it today, is fabrication is concerned. We know that it is complicated for a graded index fiber and not so complicated for a step index fiber. So, any doubts you have? Yes.